time to wake up is now. So many have been trying to get to the truth. Out to you groups like Anonymous, 911truth.org, and wearechange.org, and Infowars.com. And now you are here at another radio that's the Minutemen Radio with the Mark Fluid broadcast, a place where truth and freedom ring. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Mark Fluid broadcast. Today is just going to be a various bunch of clips to show you exactly where Piers Morgan stands, that he is part of the problem, and you can see it and hear it. And these are various clips in their entirety, so that way you can hear the whole thing. It's not just clips that show one side of the situation. Okay? So let's just go to the first clip right now, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
Coming now, a man who's got very strong opinions about guns. In fact, just about everything. He's not afraid to say exactly what he thinks. He is a rock legend, an avid hunter, NRA board member. He's Ted Nugent. Ted, welcome back to you.
Welcome to Texas, and I'd like to start off, Piers, by letting everybody know that everybody I know sends prayers to the Chris Kyle and Littlefield families for that tragic loss. And what a celebration. The heroes of the FBI and law enforcement down in Alabama did the right thing, so that's a great relief.
Yeah, and I totally endorse both those sentiments. Let's turn, Ted, because you're a great figure in this area. You know this area better than anybody. I've really enjoyed coming to Texas. I lovely people.
Let me see that machine gun smile. You got a machine gun smile?
No, but here's the truth about it. It was an exciting experience. There's no question.
And you can't give me a smile? Wasn't that fun?
No, but firing weapons like that, they're incredibly powerful. I have never really done it before. It is an exciting experience. I can't deny that. My issue, I want to play you just again. This is the AR-15, not the automatic version. This is just the regular semi-automatic once I got the hang of it. Watch this clip.
Wow.
See, here's the thing. This is the weapon that was used at Aurora in the movie theatre, and it was used at Sandy Hook in the elementary school, and it's been used in the last 5 mass shootings. And I can see why. It was very light. It was easy to use. I had very little training before, maybe a minute's worth of training. And I found it very accurate. Even I was getting an accuracy rate which apparently is the same as the trained police officers with real fire in New York of about 20%, which is obviously different circumstances. I'm sure in a range they'd be nearer 90.
We're shocked, by the way.
Right. But look, here's the thing. I don't understand, and I want you to tell me, in the least inflammatory way possible, why outside of hog hunting, which I get is a problem in Texas, anybody needs one of those. And if the answer isn't very convincing, why the least we couldn't do to those poor families who lost people to that weapon is not just remove those from the equation?
Well, a number of things. First of all, I've been monitoring your gun debates. Go ahead and take it to the bank. You will never understand. I really don't believe you'll ever grasp.
When I understand?
You don't understand that it's a simple, inanimate tool that tens of millions of American families own, that have never caused a problem, never had an accident, and will never commit a crime. You have these aberrations that are such a minute percentage. So my prayers are as strong as any.
Americans a year get hit by gunfire, Ted. It's not a minor aberration.
Let me stop you there, because I've been hearing you say this, and you are so full of crap. Listen to me. That statistic includes bad guys shot by cops and intruders shot by homeowners. So that figure is bogus. So you got to have your research
it's an accurate
team.
Figure. 100,000.
No, it's not. It's not an accurate figure.
100,000 Americans get hit by gunfire a year.
Those include bad guys getting shot by cops.
18,000 of those kill themselves with guns. Right?
Japan has a higher suicide rate, and they're not allowed to get downwind of a gun. Your turn.
How many people got murdered by guns in Japan in the last 2 or 3 years?
We're not talking about guns. We're talking about the act of murder.
They have the
do you care about murders, or do you only care about murders with guns?
I care about all deaths.
I don't think you do.
Crime.
I think you care about guns. I think you're obsessed with guns.
No, I'm obsessed.
99.99% of the gun owners of America are wonderful people that you are hanging around with here today. Yeah. Perfectly safe, perfectly harmless, wonderful, loving, giving, generous, caring people. Would you leave us the hell alone? Go after the nut jobs, go after the murderers, because I don't know any. We need to lock up the bad guys, and when people show dangerous, murderous intent, which every one of these mass murderers showed, all their neighbors, their family, their teachers, their fellow students, they all knew they were crazy, but Pierce, we didn't stop them because we're worried about hurting their feelings. We have a madman problem in America where they're running around. We have a felony recidivism problem in America. Let's focus on that together and leave the rest of us alone.
I won't leave you alone because it's a debate that has to be had in America.
And we appreciate that because you're the perfect poster boy to stand up for the things that make no sense at all to common sense people.
Well, this poster boy will take a break, and when we come back after the break, I want to know from you which of President Obama's 35 ideas for curbing gun violence in America you would support.
Tell them there's no legislation to eliminate all guns. There's no legislation being proposed to subvert the Second Amendment. Tell them specifically what we're talking about. Things that the majority of Americans, when they're asked, support. And tell them now is the time for action. That we're not going to wait until the next Newtown or the next Aurora.
President Obama earlier today reinforcing his plans for new gun legislation. So, Ted, a recent CNN Time ORC poll, January 14th and 15th, gun registration now, 69% of Americans supported that. Ban on extended ammo clips, 58%. Ban on semi-automatic guns, 56%. So a clear majority in every case of Americans that you say I don't understand actually agree with me, not you. What is your response to what the president is trying to do? Which of his proposals do you agree with?
Well, I think I can frame it best by identifying the scammer in chief who claims that just to save one life would be worth this.
Isn't it worth it?
He had a chance to save 4 American lives in Benghazi, and he refused to do so. Now he's sending F-16s to Egypt. So how can you believe this guy? This guy is on record. This president of ours has been voted in by that clueless majority who is so out of touch, they still call magazine clips. They still call personal defense weapons assault weapons, which is a nomenclature created by the anti-gun agenda.
Just go through
I don't agree with President Obama on any of that.
Do you agree with universal background checks?
Absolutely not.
Why?
Because the government doesn't need to know who's got what.
Of course they do.
Ted Kennedy was on the no-fly list 5 times, which I happen to support. But that's a bureaucracy gone mad. You can't trust these guys. I was turned down purchasing firearms a number of times, and I own Class 3 weapons, and I own hundreds and hundreds of guns. I've had a concealed weapons permit for 40 years. I've got sheriff credentials, and the instant check turned me down a number of times. It showed some felony.
But here's what's happened, Ted. You heard the owner of this store earlier in the show say he's selling 4 times as many guns and 4 times as much ammo
to me
since Sandy Hook. Maybe to you, maybe to Alex Jones, who was here earlier, which is fine. I find it an incredibly disturbing reaction to the massacre of 20 young children.
That's not a reaction to Sandy Hook.
But here's my question for you. Here's the question. Do you think America is going to be safer because gun stores like this are selling so furiously and so much faster weapons and ammunition, increasing both in America?
Absolutely. An armed society is a polite society. And again, I told you these statistics before, and they're not mine. They're actually Scotland Yard supported. They're UN supported. They're FBI uniform crime statistics reported. That where there are more citizens with more firepower, particularly on their person loaded concealed weapons permit,
do you know the 2 countries?
There is a dramatic reduction in violent crime.
I saw you say this. So here's the question for you. Do you know the 2 countries which have the highest per capita rate of firearms per civilian?
America and Switzerland, I believe.
No. Do you know what the second one is after America? The Yemen.
Well,
are you seriously telling me the Yemen is one of the safest places on earth?
Are you seriously telling me?
Ted Nugent, when you say this kind of bull, and that's what it is, people believe it. And the Yemen is not the safest country in the world.
Are you prepared to admit that your dream of a gun-free zone in Mexico is working, a gun-free zone in Chicago is working, a gun-free zone in all these cities where the slaughter rate is the highest of anywhere?
Let me give you some countries.
Including Yemen.
Let me give you some countries. Australia, Britain, Japan,
they don't have a Second
Canada.
Amendment, Pierce.
Huh?
They don't have a Second Amendment.
Your Second Amendment, Ted, doesn't entitle you to have an armoured tank outside or an RPG on your shoulder. You accept gun control already.
Are you sure of that?
Well, I wouldn't want you in a tank. But there are already over 50 gun control measures in this country. We're not talking about bringing in gun control. We're talking about extending it
and those
to cover the preferred weapon
are
of mass
violated
shooters.
by all these perpetrators every time. What makes you think that the 51st law is going to stop this kind of slaughter? And I'm here to tell you it will not.
Ted,
I believe an armed society is a polite society.
The mood is changing, Ted, and something has to change. But I respect your opinion. I respect you coming down to talk to me. Thank you.
Back at you.
Ted Nugent.
Want to know what's going on? Want to get the inside scoop? Minutemen Radio, the Mark Fluid broadcast, will give you the stories that corporate media mongers will not tell you. Want the truth? Then go to fluidnews.webs.com. That's fluidnews.webs.com.
It's an issue you know I care passionately about, so here is my position, loud and clear. I'm in favour of a nationwide ban on military-style semi-automatic assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. I want to close the gun show loopholes and require private dealers to run background checks on buyers at gun shows. And I'd like to see the President increase federal funding for mental health treatment for all Americans who need it. I think these are entirely reasonable reactions to the outrages that have occurred in America over the last few months. But tonight, I'll go head-to-head with a man who actually wants to deport me for having these very views. And over 104,000 Americans apparently agree with him. That's coming up.
Pierce, I can't say how much I agree with your opinion and what you've stated previously. I appreciate you having your First Amendment right, and I am glad you're speaking out, because that's exactly what we need.
Anyone who's watched this show over the past few weeks knows I've taken a pretty strong stand on guns in America. It's not escaped the notice of supporters of gun rights, and it's led to a petition on the White House official website, no less. It's entitled, and I quote, "Deport British citizen Piers Morgan for attacking Second Amendment." Take a look. More than 104,000 people have signed it so far. And joining me now is one of the people behind the petition, Alex Jones. He's host of the Alex Jones Show. Welcome to you.
Piers, thanks for having me.
Why do you want to deport me?
Well, we did it as a way to bring attention to the fact that we have all of these foreigners and the Russian government, the official Chinese government. Mao said political power goes out of the barrel of a gun. He killed about 80 million people because he's the only guy that had the guns. So we did it to point out that this is globalism, and the mega banks that control the planet and brag that they've taken over, in Bloomberg, AP, Reuters, you name it, brag that they're going to get our guns as well. They've taken everybody's guns but the Swiss and the American people. And when they get our guns, they can have their world tyranny. While the government buys 1.6 billion bullets, armored vehicles, tanks, helicopters, Predator drones, armed, now in U.S. skies, being used to arrest people in North Dakota. The Second Amendment isn't there for duck hunting. It's there to protect us from tyrannical government and street thugs. Take the women in India. Your piece earlier on CNN I was watching during Anderson Cooper's show didn't tell you that the women of India have signed giant petitions to get firearms because the police can't and won't protect them. The answer is, hey, wait a minute, I have FBI crime statistics that come out a year late, 2011. 20+% crime drop in the last 9 years. Real violent crime, because more guns means less crime. Britain took the guns 15, 16 years ago, tripling of your overall violent crime. True, we have a higher gun violence level, but overall mugging, stabbings, deaths, those men raped that woman in India to death with an iron rod 4 feet long. You can't ban the iron rods. The guns, the iron rods, Pierce, didn't do it. The tyrants did it. Hitler took the guns. Stalin took the guns. Mao took the guns. Fidel Castro took the guns. Hugo Chavez took the guns. And I'm here to tell you, 1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearms. Doesn't matter how many lemmings you get out there on the street begging for them to have their guns taken. We will not relinquish them. Do you understand? That's why you're going to fail, and the establishment knows no matter how much propaganda, the Republic will rise again when you attempt to take our guns. My family in the Texas Revolution against Santa Anna, my family was at the core on both sides starting that, because Santa Anna came to take the guns at Gonzales, Texas. Pierce, don't try what your ancestors did before. Why don't you come to America? I'll take you out shooting. You can become an American and join the Republic.
You finished?
Yes, I am finished. You will not take my right. You go through background checks to get guns. How about Prozac? You know the number one. Oh, that's the big sponsor, isn't it? Or that whole class of drugs.
Let me ask you a question.
Oh, got to cut that off, don't you? Don't want to talk about the U.S. number one cause of death is suicide now because they give people suicide mass murder pills.
Calm down.
Your answer is give more money to the psychiatrists and psychologists to put more crazy people on drugs that make them kill people, Pierce.
Let's try and have a debate here.
Yeah.
Answer me this question.
I'm sick of the same old script here, bud.
It's fine, bud. How many gun murders were there in America last year? Do you know?
There were about 11,458, and about 74% of those were gang-related, gangbangers shooting each other. You get 3,500 to 4,000.
That wasn't the
How
question.
many people died from infections in hospitals? 197,000.
Let me just ask you a second.
That's
question.
right.
How many gun murders were there in Britain?
How many
year?
great white sharks?
No, how many
kill
gun
people
murders?
every year, but they're scared to swim?
Right. How many gun murders were there in Britain?
A very low amount. I already went over those
How
statistics.
Many? Do you know?
It was only a few hundred.
No. How many gun murders?
I actually did pull up the statistics. Here, let me pull them out right here. I figured you'd do that.
Gun murders in
Oh, wait.
Britain last year.
UK violent crime, capital of Europe. London Telegraph. Here, let me give you more.
It's quite a simple question.
Well, that's the oldest.
You're a very loud man.
That's the oldest
You make a
Perry
lot of
Mason
noise.
tactic to ask me some little factoid.
It's not a little factoid.
I already said earlier,
We're talking about
England has a lot lower gun crime rate because you took all the guns.
Let me try exactly my
But you've got
point.
hordes of people burning down cities and beating old women's brains out every day.
What a ridiculous
They arrest
statement.
people in England if they defend themselves. That's on record. My God, you have got a total police state. Everybody's fleeing that country because you've had to flee here, bud. Why don't you tell folks?
Here.
Yeah, you fled here. Why don't you go back and face the charges for the hacking scandal?
Answer this question. How many
Why'd you get fired from the Daily Mirror for putting out fake stories? You're a hatchet man of the New World Order. Okay. You're a hatchet man. And I want to say this right here. You think you're a tough guy? Have me back with a boxing ring in here, and I'll wear red, white, and blue, and you can wear your Jolly Roger.
Okay.
You know what?
Let's try again. How many gun murders were there?
Oh, you're going to ban your fist now?
In Britain last year.
How many chimpanzees can dance on the head of a pin? I already went over those statistics.
Do you know the answer?
No, I don't.
You said hundreds.
It's very low.
You said hundreds.
Yes.
It's actually 35.
Well, the point is you can...
Against 11,000. Do you understand the difference between 11,000
Yeah, England
and
wants
35?
to ban knives now because tens of thousands are getting stabbed.
Right. But do you understand
ban
the
knives?
difference?
The knife doesn't kill people.
Do you understand?
The gun doesn't kill people.
Yes.
Listen, do you understand
between 35
you're not going to pull on America's heartstrings? They know your script, okay? You're not going to get our guns. By the way, you guys always say, we just want to take the semi-autos, okay, and all this other stuff when semi-autos aren't even, rifles aren't even used but in a fraction of the crimes. You can pull those numbers up, okay? No, hold on.
Let me ask you one question. Which weapon was predominantly used in the Aurora movie theatre shooting?
M4 AR-15 variants.
So it was a semi-automatic assault rifle.
Again.
Okay,
but statistically, it's very, very low.
Do you agree it was the single biggest shooting in the history of America in terms of people hit by a shooter? Do you know that?
No, I believe that there were others. There's been some other shootings from about over 30.
No. This was the single biggest mass shooting.
Well, listen, you're just going... No, there have been bombings of Wall Street.
Let me ask you a second question.
Are we going to... Listen, why can't the pilots have firearms?
Alex,
we trust them to fly the planes.
Alex, you've had a lot to say.
No, my point is the Second Amendment is sacrosanct, and you're not getting it.
Do you know which weapon was used in the Oregon shopping mall mass shooting recently?
I understand that people... who are mentally ill on all the serotonin reuptake inhibitors, who play these shoot-'em-up games, want to go out and do this. Because there's criminals, I don't lose my rights, Pierce. Because there's criminals, I don't lose my rights.
Just answer the question.
Yeah.
Do you know what the weapon used was?
Listen, let me ask you a question.
No, answer.
I've got the FBI statistics that, that these so-called semi-autos that you talk about.
Let's take a break. When we come back...
Again, you're not going to get our guns.
When we come back, try and answer my question.
Yeah, all you're going to do is sit there and play little factoid questions. Overall crime's gone up over 20%. More.
Back now with Alex Jones. A man says I should be deported for my stand on guns. So, Alex, here's how this is going to work, and it's entirely down to you. I'm going to ask you some questions. In the spirit of a proper debate, and you've had a lot to say so far on the show, and a lot of it aimed at me, which is fine. But I want you to try and answer the questions. It's a proper debate, okay? I'm not trying to trip you up.
No, it's not a debate. You're running the show. You bring in your victims up front.
Actually, no.
Look, you got your little note cards.
Yeah, okay.
I just gave you FBI statistics that violent crime and gun crime is down over 20%.
Alex, let me just ask you
And
this.
you want to go to little factoids.
No, they're not little
Anybody
factoids.
can pull those up. Listen.
Do you know what...
Do you have a bodyguard?
Alex.
Why do you have bodyguards?
I don't have a bodyguard.
Yeah, I've seen you on the news with them. Don't you want to protect your wife from hoodlums, or you want to call the police?
Let me ask you this question.
Why does Dianne Feinstein tell 60 Minutes that she plans to try to take Mr. and Mrs. America's guns?
Stop
Have you seen that
talking over me.
You guys want to disarm all of America.
No, I don't.
Dianne Feinstein's bill does gun confiscation.
No, let me clarify for you. You don't seem to understand
First
what
you register, then you confiscate. It's always done the same.
Here's what the campaign on this
Well, here,
shows.
give me your little cue cards and I'll answer your questions for you.
What was the weapon used at Sandy Hook?
I've already gone over that and already answered it for you.
We haven't talked about Sandy Hook.
No, again,
what was the weapon?
It's a 223 M4.
Right.
Again, but statistically, they're using very low percentage of shootings.
But
period.
seeing,
you guys,
seeing
people wouldn't go swimming because the movie Jaws, even though great white sharks kill 5 people a year.
Alex,
you're trying to scare people.
Let me say something.
There's no metal shark in the water.
The same type of weapon was used in the last 3 mass shootings.
And Hitler used semi-autos to kill people.
Why would you not?
So did Mao.
Why would you?
Why is the government arming to the teeth against us?
Alex, I don't.
What about Fast and Furious?
Alex,
why do our government ship guns into Mexico?
Alex,
to blame the Second Amendment?
Let's have a debate.
A false flag?
Alex,
to blame the Second Amendment?
I get accused.
Why'd they blow up Building 7 down the street here in New York?
I get accused when I get you guys on of talking over you, of being rude. I'm trying to be civil.
Yeah.
Right? You've got to try and answer some of the questions, right? Here's my issue for you. Why do people civilians need an AR-15 type assault rifle? Why do you
I already said statistically they're used in a very low amount of the crimes. That's an FBI fact.
They've been used in the last 3 mass shootings.
Yes.
Why?
I'll tell you why. Because they advertise it in the media. Anybody knows that if somebody jumps off the Empire State Building, they put cops up there the next day because copycats come to do it again. The media hypes and hypes and hypes.
No, that's not the question.
Don't just commit suicide.
Alex, why do people
Go commit suicide by killing a bunch of kids, and here's the gun to use because it's the one the U.S. Army uses.
Why do people need them?
They need them to protect us from the #1 killer in history. Government in the 20th century, university study out of Hawaii killed 292 million people. It's called democide. Google it, folks.
Do you believe everyone in America, should everyone in America, therefore, have an AR-15 if they want one?
Statistically, where there's more guns, there's lower crime. The highest crime is in Bloomberg,
But you have the most
controlled
guns
areas
of any of the 23 richest countries in the world, and you have
America was born on guns and whiskey.
Right, but
it's true we're a violent society.
Right. So
but statistically, knives kill 3 times more. Have you seen the FBI numbers? Knives, bats, rocks kill many times more.
Alex, let's talk about the guns.
It's not the rock. It's not the knife. When a mother chops her kids up with a cleaver because she's on serotonin.
Tell me why I'm wrong.
Why don't you want to get rid of the drugs? Because they're half your sponsors?
No, stick to the subject.
America's #1 cause of unnatural death now is suicide. Okay.
Alex,
not automobile accident, not cancer,
accuse me of attacking the Second Amendment of the Constitution.
I want to get people off pills that the insert says will make you commit suicide and kill people.
Alex, let's get about the Second Amendment.
I want to blame the real culprit. Suicide pills. Mass murder pills.
Okay, let me ask you one question. Your belief, unless I'm wrong.
First time anybody's ever heard this, by the way.
Your belief, unless I'm wrong, is that under the Second Amendment, your real concern is that you will be overrun by a tyrannical regime, either from somewhere else.
Yeah, highway checkpoints. Look at Mexico. Total gun ban for the citizens. Highest crime rate in the world. 57,000 people dead the last 5 years. Total gun ban for the citizens.
But
Switzerland has the lowest crime rate in Europe. Your country has the highest.
Alex, we have 35 gun murders a year. You have 11,000.
You people get their brains. It's the higher crime rate.
Let me ask
Violent crime is higher.
On this specific...
It's brains.
Alex,
it's people.
I'm trying to get inside your brains.
Pierce,
if
you punched me right now, it'd be not your fist, but your brain that did it.
Let me get inside your brain.
Okay.
Okay? I'm serious. You have a very, very big platform. You air, I think, on 63 networks.
No, that Wikipedia is like 10 years old. I'm on over 140 stations, XM.
Millions of Americans hear you.
Over 1.5 million visitors to Infowars.com
and
today.
I congratulate
where we have the
your
statistics posted right now. Infowars.com.
Who do you believe was behind 9/11?
Oh, I absolutely know. I have the police on CNN saying, get back, they're going to blow up 7. I have BBC reporting.
Who do you believe is behind it?
I have the proof. I heard them on CBS Radio.
Who, Alex?
They announced they blew up the towers on CBS Radio. New Yorkers all saw it and heard it.
Alex, who do you
believe? They blew up Building 7.
Alex, who do you believe was behind it? The American government?
criminal elements of the military-industrial complex, the same ones that staged Gulf of Tonkin, the same ones that staged the mass shootings of Operation Gladio.
Right.
Ooh, the CIA don't like this now.
Do you mean that President Bush and his administration were behind 9/11?
I mean that even mainstream news reported that the hijackers were ordered to be allowed into the United States. Michael Springman, the head of the Visa Department, blew the whistle on that.
So the Bush administration was part of a conspiracy
he said never let us tolerate
to murder
I can speak in this accent as well.
Yeah. But is that what you believe?
Hitler firebombed his own Reichstag, Pierce, to bring in martial law in Germany, April 27th, 1933. Governments have staged terror attacks throughout history or allowed terrorists to attack as a pretext to invade and enslave the populations. I probably own more than 50 firearms. Many of them have increased in value 2, 3, or even 4 times. I sleep very comfortably outside Austin, Texas, knowing that I can defend my family.
Okay, Alex Jones. This is
Infowars.com.
This is the man who wants to deport me from the country for wanting to get rid of
it's to point out you're a foreigner, a red coat, here telling us what to do.
Whatever.
Go back to where they took the guns if you don't like it. The communist...
Want to know what's going on? Want to get the inside scoop? Minutemen Radio, the Mark Fluid broadcast, will give you the stories that corporate media mongers will not tell you. Want the truth? Then go to fluidnews.webs.com. That's fluidnews.webs.com. Now you can get good quality made gifts from true veterans. No more will you have to keep shelling out your money to the fat corporate mongers that all they do is can keep you down. The globalists want you to spend all your hard-earned money, but why would you? When you can go to the top Patriot stores around, and one of them are FEShopWorld.webs.com, a complete line of military local gifts designed by 100% American. Stop catering to the globalists, and stop catering to a crisis. Make a difference today. Go to FEShopWorld.webs.com.
Can you try and explain to me why you believe the answer to this is to arm teachers?
Well, the alternative is what we have seen, where people were reduced to waiting to be murdered without being able to do anything effective to protect themselves or the adults to protect the children. So it seems so obvious that since we have concealed carry laws in all of our country now, people can get a concealed firearm, and yet we have laws that say not in schools. And so in the very places that have been sought out by monsters, such as the murder of these adults and children, we're saying, no, we don't want you to be able to defend yourself. It's better that you just sit there and wait to be killed. And we find that morally incomprehensible and deeply disturbing, that the desire to defend life has been so cast aside into whatever political correctness views guns as the ultimate evil. Evil's in our hearts, not in the guns.
Where would the teachers put the guns?
People can carry firearms in a concealed fashion, do it all the time. The laws provide for that.
Wait a minute. So in a school full of 600 children, including 5- and 6-year-olds, you would have teachers walking around armed, carrying the guns on them, where they may possibly fall and allow a 5-year-old to pick it up and possibly misfire it. Is that that's your solution?
People are walking around with guns outside of schools all over our country, and we don't have those kinds of problems. You can always play the what-if game.
But you have enormous problems in this country. You have over 300 million guns. You have 311 million people, many of which are children. You have more than a gun per adult in this country, and you have by far the worst rate of gun murder and gun crime of any of the civilized countries of this world. How can you possibly argue that the answer... I'm asking you this question.
Let me
How can
answer.
you argue that the logical... Please stop laughing.
Because
Please
you're
stop
saying, what is
sir.
your argument? And then you won't let me
I'm
make
going
an
to
argument.
ask you the question, but if you could stop
You've
laughing.
already posited the
If you
question.
could stop.
Let me answer your question.
I haven't asked you the question.
Repeat
My
it.
question is this. If you could stop laughing for a moment. It is this. Why do you believe, given that you have 300 million guns in circulation and the worst gun crime rate of any of the civilized countries of the world, that more guns is the answer to less gun murder?
Because the problem occurs, sir, in those areas precisely where we have said no guns. The problem doesn't occur where the guns are allowed freely to be carried, to be used by people. There we have very low murder rates. We have lower murder rates in other parts of the country than even in Europe, than even where you come from. But what has created the problem in the United States is to say in cities, in schools, those are areas where we're not going to allow people to defend themselves.
What is the murder rate in Great Britain for the last 3 years? You know, from guns?
It's under 3 per 100,000, and in Fairfax County, where Gun Owners of America is located, it is actually 0.3 per 100,000, about a tenth of what it is in your vaunted English bucolic countryside. The fact of the matter is, with guns comes safety if the guns are in the hands of the good guys. And when you say the good guys can't have guns, the bad guys have a monopoly, and horrible things such as the shooting at the schools take place.
The AR-15, as we've now seen from the last 3 mass shootings in America, Aurora, the shopping mall in Oregon, and now at Sandy Hook School, is the preferred choice of weapon for disturbed young men who want to commit mass atrocity. It can fire hundreds of bullets at rapid speed if you have the right magazines. The President of the United States has indicated he wants to ban assault weapons like this. What is your view?
I think we need to ban gun control laws that keep people from being able to protect themselves. The problem is not going to go away if we ban this or that gun. We've tried that. That doesn't work. Doesn't even work in England. You've had mass murders there. All over Europe there have been mass murders. The solution is for people to be able to defend themselves at the point of the crime and not wait for 20 minutes for the police to come after everybody's dead.
Mr. Pratt, was an absolute lie. The gun murder rate in countries like Britain or Germany or Australia, who've all suffered massacres many years ago of similar nature, they are 35 people killed a year. Your country is 12,000.
Your murder rate is lower than ours. That is true.
Lower?
Your
It's
violent
35 against 12,000.
Your violent
in Australia,
crime rate,
they had a
your
massacre,
violent
and they
crime
got
rate
rid
is
of these
higher
assault
than
weapons.
ours, as is the violent crime rate in Australia. America is not the Wild West that you are depicting. We only have the problem in our cities and unhappily in our schools, where people like you have been able to get laws put on the books that keep people from being able to defend themselves. I honestly don't understand why you would rather have people be victims of a crime than be able to defend themselves. It's incomprehensible.
You're an unbelievably stupid man, aren't you?
It seems to me that you're morally obtuse. You seem to prefer being a victim to being able to prevail over the criminal element. And I don't know why you want to be the criminal's friend.
What a ridiculous argument. You have absolutely no coherent argument whatsoever. You don't give a damn, do you, about the gun murder rate in America? You don't actually care. All you care about
seems to me that
is the
facts
right
don't bother you, do they, Mr. Morgan?
You would like
facts,
to see...
Facts don't seem to... They bounce right off of your head.
Let's deal with some facts.
You're speaking oblivious to what we do know is that when you go to an area in the United States where guns are freely available, readily able to be carried legally, there you find our lowest murder rates, lower than the murder rates in Europe. You go to our cities where we have cracked down on guns and people can't defend themselves, and that's where the criminals have a field day.
How many guns did Mrs. Lanza have in her home?
I don't know how many she had, and that really is not the point.
Well,
the point is somebody with evil in his...
She had 6 guns, including 4 assault rifles. And what happened was her deranged son, who clearly was very disturbed.
Her evil son.
It doesn't matter what you call him.
We shouldn't be... Well, I think it matters, because if you believe and understand that there is evil in the world, then you don't try as your first line of defense to solve it psychiatrically. You protect yourself with a gun.
Let me finish my thread there, Mr. Pratt. So you have an evil young man who is living at home, clearly with serious troubles. And his mother has 6 firearms in that house, including the weapons that he used to murder 26 people, including 20 children aged 5. You are quite happy about that situation, are you? And you would be quite happy if there are many more people in his position in homes around America where there are that number of firearms which could be used by mentally unstable people.
Americans with firearms in their homes typically have them locked in a safe, as I do, and as most gun owners certainly do. The fact that this woman did not and knew that her son was unstable reflected poorly on her judgment, and unhappily she paid very dearly for her poor judgment. But that's not the reason that you should be able to come down on everybody else who's a law-abiding gun owner, who uses good sense, and to say, we've got to pay for that person's stupidity, for their shortcomings. That's just not going to wash. We're not going to let it happen, Mr. Morgan.
I'm sure you're not going to try and let it happen. You see, my argument is not about the Americans' right to defend themselves in their home with a firearm. That's not the argument that I'm trying to put out there. My argument is the same as the argument that Senator Feinstein said, that the President endorses, that I believe many, many Americans now believe following this tragedy, which is that there is absolutely no use and no justification for these AR-15 type assault weapons.
On the contrary,
let me finish,
how can you say such a thing?
Let me finish my sentence.
The Korean merchants in Los Angeles use these kinds of firearms to protect their lives and their businesses. And for you to say there's no useful purpose for these guns, that's just completely wrong.
Okay, let me finish my sentence. There are these assault weapons which have been used now in movie theaters, in shopping malls, in elementary schools to murder many, many Americans, and now 25-year-old children. And they are armed with magazines, 30 at a time here, 100 in Aurora in a movie theater. And your only answer, Mr. Pratt, to people that want to get rid of both the magazines and these assault weapons, if I'm not mistaken, is to let everybody else have similar weapons. Is that the solution to America's gun murder problem?
I would challenge you to go and tell the Korean merchants who survived the riots in Los Angeles, sorry you had those firearms.
Can you answer my question?
Saved your lives. I'm answering your question. I wish you could understand it, because you're talking against self-defense. Would you like to see people being able to protect themselves, and you don't want to hear it. That's why you keep interrupting.
No, I don't mind hearing it. I think it's complete nonsense, but I don't mind hearing it. You would like to see...
Brits tend to do that, don't they?
Oh, stop being so facetious. I just want you to answer this one question. Post what happened at Sandy Hook, your answer to this problem of repeated use of this weapon with these high-capacity magazines is to continue letting Americans buy them with impunity and to not concern yourself with these mass shootings. Is that right?
The Second Amendment means what it says, and meanwhile, you want to continue laws against self-defense, laws that prohibit self-defense, laws that prohibit teachers and other faculty, other members of the administration in schools from being able to defend themselves if they have a concealed carry permit. The laws prohibit them right now. We have been lobbying against those laws since they were put on. We will continue to do so, pointing out that that is where the problem is. And for you to support them means that you're really blind to the role that that plays in enabling murderers to operate with impunity.
Yeah, I know why sales of these weapons have been soaring in the last few days. It's down to idiots like you. Mr. Pratt, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for your high-level argument, Mr. Morgan.
You know what?
Really
you wouldn't understand the meaning of the phrase high-level argument. You are a dangerous man espousing dangerous nonsense. And
disarmament is dangerous. Ask Neville Chamberlain, your role model.
Yeah, sure. I know all about role models, and you're not one of them. When we come back, 2 members of Congress who've experienced gun violence and what they want to do to make sure it never happens to anybody.
Tired of throwing away all your hard-earned money to the global bankers for games? Tired of all the money you're shelling out for old classic games? Then stop catering to the global bankers and go to MegaGamePortal.com. That's MegaGamePortal.com, where you can get a great selection of classic games with no Trojans, spyware, viruses, and you can get them at the best prices digitally downloaded to your computer. Go to MegaGamePortal.com today.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm doing well, but I'm curious, Pierce, how many intros have you done using people who successfully defended themselves with a gun? I mean, I understand where you come from.
Well, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. How many people of the 3 million who own AR-15 military-style assault rifles in this country have ever used them to defend themselves?
I can't get you a number, but I'll be glad to try to find a number.
I haven't heard of any.
But let me ask this.
But here's my point. I haven't heard of any. So the answer comes back at you. Why does anybody need, in civilian life, a weapon that belongs in a military battlefield, as General Stanley McChrystal and General Colin Powell have both said?
First of all, the civilian AR-15 is not an automatic weapon. It's illegal to have an automatic weapon of that kind. It is a semi-automatic weapon. Second, your last interview I thought was very revealing. The uncle of the young man kept saying, "We don't know." And I want to suggest to you that a great deal of what's going on here is everybody who wants to ban guns woke up immediately and said, "I've got a bill. It's the bill I've had for 10 years. Let me bring it back in." The fact is, we don't know about a lot of these things. Mental health is a big part of it. I've challenged my liberal friends. Let's have hearings in Chicago. Chicago has very strict gun control and was the murder capital of the U.S. last year. Over 500 people were killed. Now, why is it the people who are for gun control don't want to go to Chicago to find out why gun control has failed so miserably?
Why are automatic weapons banned in America?
Because they were felt to be too dangerous. They came out of the 1930s.
Why are they too dangerous?
Because of the high volume of fire, which you don't get from a semi-automatic weapon.
Okay, do you know how many bullets the shooter at Aurora, James Holmes, fired per minute with his AR-15?
No.
Okay, he had a magazine that can fire 100 bullets in 1 minute. How many more bullets do you need to fire, Mr. Speaker, before that qualifies as a dangerous killing machine by your criteria?
Well, by my criteria, and then this goes back to a question of what you respect, Pierce. I think the Second Amendment really matters. I think if you look at the new law in New York State,
so do I. But what I want to know,
clearly.
So do I. But what I want to know is where do you draw the line? You just said this rule was set on automatic weapons back in the 30s. I put it to you that an AR-15 military-style assault weapon, as used in the last 5 mass shootings,
it's not a military-style assault weapon.
But it can fire 100 bullets a minute, Mr. Speaker.
Look, this is lovely propaganda.
What else do you call them?
This is lovely
machine
propaganda.
that can fire 100 bullets in a minute. What else do you call it?
I would simply say to you that millions of people, by your own definition, own an AR-15. They are law-abiding. They think it is their right under our Constitution to own it. And don't kid the rest of us. The people who are just on would ban all guns if they could get away with it. You look at the New York State law that Governor Cuomo just pushed. Basically, it eliminates virtually every pistol.
But hang on. Hang on. Let me pick you up on that. Dianne Feinstein is attacked by many Republicans as being somebody that wants to ban all guns. Do you know how many different types of gun she has permitted to remain in legal circulation in America under her new proposals?
No, I like this. Oh, so this is what this year the government is willing to permit.
Well,
and
why
then maybe
don't
next
you
year they won't permit
but you've already
as many.
But you've already agreed.
In New York State.
But Mr. Speaker, you have already agreed with the decision to not permit Americans to have automatic firing weapons. What's the difference in terms of permission?
I don't think people... Okay, so now we're arguing over whether or not very many people's lives will be saved. And I'm challenging you and others.
No, I'm not actually. I'm asking you, how many more guns does an American civilian need other than 2,200, which would be permitted under this new assault weapons ban? How many more do they need to defend themselves, for goodness sake?
Look,
and what I can't understand is the difference
between
the
language.
What is the difference between mass slaughter created by an automatic weapon and by a weapon, as we saw at Aurora or at Sandy Hook, that can kill 100 people in a minute? What is the difference?
Wait a second. First of all, you're making our case. Permitted. In other words, this year they're going to permit, and then next year they may not permit.
Mr. Speaker, there are 50 or more gun control rules which do not permit Americans to use certain types of weaponry already. So that permission decision has already been taken more than 50 times.
So if your primary, Pierce, if your primary concern is saving lives,
yes,
you'd have to look at pistols, because pistols are the primary killers, and they're the primary killers in big cities, all of which have gun control
but they
laws.
Are not, as you know,
none of which work.
As you know, the primary preferred weapon of mass shooters, deranged young men.
Right.
There's been a pattern now of 5 deranged young men using AR-15s. Why do they use them? Because they're easy to use and they create the most mass killing in the shortest possible time. That is why people like Dianne Feinstein and me want them removed from civilian arms. I see no difference in the ability to commit mass murder between an automatic weapon, which is banned, and you agree with that ban, and an AR-15, which can shoot 100 people dead or 20 children at Sandy Hook in less than a minute. I see no difference.
So where are you on pistols that have fairly large capacity? Where are you on the pistols that killed most of the people in Chicago, Pierce?
My position
is it's okay if we kill them individually?
No,
You're saying,
let me make my
3,
position,
4, 5 a night's okay?
my position very, very clear. What is happening in Chicago is completely outrageous, completely unacceptable. I think there's been a total breakdown in the effectiveness of the law enforcement, because when you compare it to New York, they have solved a lot of the gun problems in New York with very stringent gun control, and they've enforced it properly. It's like a Wild West situation in parts of Chicago. I've been there. I think it's outrageous. And I think the fact that 11 or 12,000 people die a year in America from gunfire, and a lot of that is from handguns used by criminals and gangsters, is disgraceful. And I think many of the other proposals...
share your real view? Isn't
your
real view
it's all wrong
that you
to
would
me.
ban pistols if you could?
No, it wouldn't. What I would do...
Wouldn't you ban pistols if you could?
Let me explain what I would do. I would agree with Dianne Feinstein. It is the high-power guns of any variety which can fire 30 or 40 or more rounds in less than a minute, that can cause mass murder, that would be my primary concern right now. And the AR-15 is a prime example of that.
Okay, right now. And the reason you find so many of us, and by the way, it's a substantial majority. I think the last time I saw, 63% of the American people agree that the Second Amendment's actually there to protect us from tyranny. The reason you find so many of us very reluctant to go down this road is we believe each step down this road leads to the next step and the next step and the next step. And we actually think the Second Amendment is central to our liberties, not just something there for hunters, not something there for target practice, but actually there because the Founding Fathers remembered that when your army tried to defeat us, luckily our peasants weren't peasants, they were citizens, and as citizens they were in fact armed, and that's the only reason we were able to win the Revolutionary War.
And you honestly think the Founding Fathers sat there and thought, okay, automatic weapons are banned because they are very dangerous, the semi-automatics that can fire 100 bullets in a minute are not dangerous and they should be lawful?
I think the Founding Fathers would have found this entire debate strange because they actually believed in individual freedom, and they were very suspicious of big government. And they would find the idea that you're going to permit, to use the word you kept using, you're going to permit us to have a few liberties right now, was the antithesis of the American experience.
But you do agree with not permitting Americans to have automatic weapons?
I think that 50 caliber machine guns would be bizarre. And I'm happy to say that those rules seem to have worked fairly.
Now you can get good quality made gifts from true veterans. No more will you have to keep shelling out your money to the fat corporate mongers that all they do is can keep you down. The globalists want you to spend all your hard-earned money, but why would you when you can go to the top Patriot stores around, and one of them are FEShopWorld.webs.com, a complete line of military local gifts designed by 100% American. Stop catering to the globalists and stop catering to a crisis. Make a difference today. Go to FEShopWorld.webs.com. Want to know what's going on? Want to get the inside scoop? Minutemen Radio, the Mark Fluid broadcast, will give you the stories that corporate media mongers will not tell you. Want the truth? Then go to fluidnews.webs.com. That's fluidnews.webs.com. Alright folks, welcome back. Alright, as you can see different ideas, but the last story, as you can see, is right. You start leading the next step, next step, the next step. Our founding fathers gave us a freedom, and you can see that Piers Morgan always tries to do the propaganda. He always tries to go this way, but he's not focusing on the problem. The problem is not gun violence. It is the person that's carrying it. These deranged people, there's already laws in effect, and let's give you a little bit of piece of advice to hopefully you guys think, okay? You have gun laws. You You have strict gun laws. Criminals aren't going to obey the law. They're going to still get the guns. They're going to still kill people. They're not going to listen to anybody. So you're not being able to protect yourself. It is the same theory and the same reality of why there's locks on doors. There's only locks on doors to keep honest people honest. Because a dishonest person's going to break that lock anyway. So the people that are making these rules and these little thoughts, these lobbyists, they are stupid because they don't think about the big picture. Okay? And it's true. There's places that they have buttons on their cars now. So if you lock your keys in the car, or you don't even have to have the key, you can put the key in your pocket and not even use it because you have a number code. You know, these security is to protect people from themselves. Okay, that's what it is. And the criminals never obey the law. So those are the ones that are going to be running rapid. Okay, so Piers Morgan, no matter how much he says or argues it, he's favoring the criminals. Okay, there's a reason why it's called the California criminal justice system, because the criminals are running it. Okay, and that's the truth. Okay, do not let them take your rights. It is far time to make a difference. And that's what it really is. I'm telling you right now, do not co-opt their language, do not believe a word they say. They're great on propaganda, they're crap, and I'm telling you right now, it's ridiculous, okay? Now I want to get you listeners' opinion, I'm not kidding. If you guys got scoops, if you guys got informations, get to the forum. I want to get your opinions. That's fluentnews.webs.com, and you can click on the forum. You can register anonymous. I don't really care about names. I care about just getting information that's out there, and I want to get your feedback on things because right now it is apparent we are very much in perilous times. We have to understand that big government was never supposed to shadow and run our lives. We run them. It's our tax money, okay? That's fluentnews.webs.com. Post it. Join the forum. Join the discussion. Let me see what you got, okay? Because I really want to hear the feedback. All right? I want to thank you very much for joining today. We're going to take a quick commercial break before we end it. And I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow night at 7 o'clock p.m. That's 7 o'clock p.m., okay? So I want to get your feedback. All right? Thank you very much. Now you can get good quality made gifts from true veterans. No more will you have to keep shelling out your money to the fat corporate mongers that all they do is can keep you down. The globalists want you to spend all your hard-earned money, but why would you when you can go to the top Patriot stores around, and one of them are FEShopWorld.webs.com, a complete line of military local gifts designed by 100% American. Stop catering to the globalists and stop catering to a crisis. Make a difference today. Go to FEShopWorld.webs.com. Telling you right now, you can see where he stands. These people try to push their propaganda out there. Don't let them do it. Turn off mainstream media. Turn off Piers Morgan. Okay? Just turn them off. Start getting the news here. Feedback. Let's find out where these scumbags are meeting. Let's push these issues because this country stands for freedom. It's time to make a stand. Okay? I want to thank everybody for joining tonight. Remember, join at 7 p.m. tomorrow night. And let me get your opinions on the forum. You're always welcome to post because I really want to hear the feedback. Some people, there is news going on in some other countries or some other states that we don't get, okay? We can research it. We need your put in. We need your input. And that's what the forum there, so we can investigate it and get it out there and get the people to see it because this is where it's at. Our freedom of speech, our freedom's what our founding